want answers.
I want the truth.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Realize Real Lies podcast. I am, of course, your trusty old host, Georgina Grace. Today, I'm so excited because I have with me a dear friend of mine. And what was I going to say? I was going to say you're a dear friend, but you are also like another soldier on this mission that we're on together. I don't feel quite so alone knowing that you're here and that you're doing the work that you're doing, which is unique to you, expressed through you, but our intentions ultimately are the same, you know?
Yeah.
So, comrade is the word I was looking for.
Nice. Nice one, sister.
So today we have the incredible Jason Keeble on the podcast. Jason is a 415 life path number, and you just never quite know what you're going to expect with this man. And that really does explain this life path number. So Jason being a 415 life path number, he is on one hand, someone that no matter what you've got going on, if you go to Jason, you can count on him. He will be there and he will devote himself and commit himself to supporting you through whatever the thing is that you need support. And he is not only someone that sees just like with X-ray vision, the mechanics of the way things come together, whether it's the physical body, whether it's a process, whether it's your soul's expression, whether it's your energetic field in which you're operating in, doesn't matter what it is. He has this incredible way of breaking down and seeing with X-ray vision the mechanics of how life and all facets of it come together. Because when you're someone that people go to for support, for fault finding in whatever area of their life, you kind of need to be very knowledgeable in the mechanics of a lot of different things. And Jason has a lot of knowledge about a lot of different things. He is a freedom seeker at heart, and his life path is all about just one part of it, but it's a big part of it, is about the seeking of freedom, not just for self, for himself, his own family, and creating the necessary foundations to birth the freedom and to create spaciousness, but of course for all of humanity. His heart is so big, so full, and so abundant that he just wants everybody to come on this freaking wild ride with him and express their own fullest expression, whatever that is. So, ladies and gentlemen, lend your ears to the beautiful, the incredible, the powerful, the spiritual, the sovereign, Jason Keeble.
Georgie, I could pass now actually and complete. You just all that I ever tried to recognize for as being summated in that one paragraph or 4 paragraphs. Thank you so much. That's so beautiful.
You're so welcome. That's going to go down as one of the best intros I've ever done.
Oh, it's overwhelming. And I'll give you that $5,000 later.
You know, if ever you need to apply for a job or that you're never going to do, but just
no, it's not
play that little 2-minute clip back.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
That's all you need to know about this guy, right?
Oh, that's gorgeous. Thank you so much.
So good to have you on, Jason. It's so great to have you on. I was just saying to you that there's really no telling where this conversation can go, and it can go anywhere and everywhere as far as I'm concerned, because that is the mind of you, which is just so intrinsically exquisite. It's beautiful. However, I guess I would love to start with, I just obviously introed you, and we could stop there and that's enough. That's all people need to know. That's the truth, right? That's all I speak, being a 33 life path. It's truth and that's it.
Nice. They might want some evidence to support it, I guess.
Well, you're born on the 7th, so that is a true 7 thing you would say. Oh, but would you like to share a little bit of the journey of Jason?
Yeah.
Anywhere, but you are, what I know about you, what I've experienced about you is you're an incredible human being, very, very, very incredible and devoted to your true soul's work. And that doesn't just happen overnight.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose I would like to. I'm conscious of, I was actually talking to a really beautiful friend about it who came over from a big part of my life, which is when I lived overseas for 10 years. And her and her beautiful husband, who was also a huge part of my life, came and they spent the last 3 days with us. And she's literally like a soul sister, like at the deepest, most profound level. And I call when we get together like fun park for adults. Like we literally do not stop laughing. The conversations can't be deeper, but there's just all this humanity in the experience and like allowance. And just as one of us is getting like a little bit, I would never say too deep, or because that's all we do, is there's just this beautiful like twist on it from someone that just elevates it into hysterics the whole time. And, you know, uh, well, I was with her when she got the message. We're going down the Great Ocean Road near where we live. She'd never been. And her father, and I'll be private about her story, but it's a big story. And she just received notice that he'd had a heart attack. Then he seemed, and I actually got to be that person with her at that time. And it turns out, he's still alive, and they managed to get him to hospital. And but really, she looked at me and I looked at her and I said, I feel like this is actually the way it's meant to be. And she goes, yeah, like me and her doing this. Even though we're beautiful partners around, this was where it was at.
Mm.
And then, um, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's just that she brought so much life and joy and remembrance to a part of my, learning experience that I definitely haven't forgotten about, but I learned not to share a lot about it in substance because it no one could relate to it.
Mm.
And however, what they may be able to relate to is the things that I've learned from those experiences, particularly in the mountains over in the highest mountains in Chamonix. But I suppose just stepping back a couple of dots back there is just that introduction into this realm, which I found out was a forced adoption, which I shared with you, I think, at the very
Mm.
start. And then, when we were doing our names at the very last part of the masters, because those who don't know Georgie, I did Georgie's course, and it's absolutely amazing. So I'll get that bit in.
Thanks for the plug.
Like revelation upon revelation and healing upon healing for all.
I remember, I remember when we started was it the first week of Masters? And you were like, I don't really see how this can go any further. You were like,
I know, it's crazy.
I love that.
Absolutely amazing. And so we're doing the final week of Masters.
Yeah, sorry.
I know, no, don't, no, it's fine. And I didn't tell you, but I went to check my name because I've got, two names, one when I was born, and I wanted to see if there's any more info.
Mm.
And I've never seen it before, but in that documentation from the Royal Women's Hospital, which had the forced adoption policy at the time, it said, the nurse said, we've decided not to mention the heart issue to the parents on the instance that they might not take the product. And I'm like, holy fuck, you cunts. Oh, sorry, I just said it. You cunts, like, I actually had rheumatic fever when I was 7, which is that, hole in the heart type thing. And the beautiful thing is, I came back to and said to my wife, Renee, I said, I saw that thing. She goes, yeah, I saw that too. I said, I reckon that was formed in utero. And she goes, yeah, totally. So do I. It's like the energetics of knowing that you're going to be like released by the incubator as you're being incubated, that's a big deal and it hurts the heart. And so, yeah, I suppose that's like the introduction to my way into the world and that journey, and then experiencing like a visceral sense of separation, and then attaching stories of not being worthy and being inadequate and being rejected and all those things that, they made sense of the story, or they made sense of the circumstance, but they weren't the actual truth.
Mm.
Probably until quite recently, until I got to a point of actually relinquishing a lot of those stories. And part of that journey was when I was 28, I decided to go and actually, I didn't decide. This is probably where it starts. I'm just starting to listen more internally. So what happened was I went to see a nutritionist and naturopath because I was feeling a bit anxious. And she said, "Oh, what's your diet in the morning?" And I'm a carpenter by trade and I'm a builder in background. And she said, I said, I have a coffee and a chocolate croissant in the morning. She said, well, that's probably got something to do with it. But I also noticed in your notes when I asked about your ancestry stuff, you've been adopted. Have you ever thought of looking at that? I said, oh, no, no, I'm not interested in that. And she said, oh, there could be something in it. I said, no, no, I'm not. And she was very in tune. And I was just walking like 2 days later, and I walked past this door in Carlton, and I was walking back. I just literally stopped. And it's literally like I'm fair income. The universe just pulled me back on a conveyor belt.
Yeah,
Literally,
wow.
like clunk, like it's like deja vu in reality. And it just pulled me back and put me in front of this red door, and it said adoption service agencies. I'm totally fucking serious. And I just knocked on the door and go, what do you do? I'm adopted. And they said, we help people and facilitate and hold workshops and things like that. Are you interested? And I said, nah, I'm all cool with all that. I'm fine with my parents and I'm too loyal to, the stories that they've offered me. And I'll see you later. Anyway, sure enough, within a short amount of time, I was back in there.
Yeah.
I was in this room, Georgie, I'm serious. Like I've seen a lot of shit in the world. Like I've been to like the top of the Bathurst car races with people getting run over by trucks and shit. And like I've seen amazing stuff. Like I've seen so many dark things. I was in this room and there's like 12 or 15 people and they're all getting to vent their animosity and anger around their like relinquishment. And it's just, there's so much anger and
Wow.
so much victimhood and so thick in there. And I was like, wow. And so many negative stories as well around. I haven't been back to this place for so long. Around, they'd gone to find their mothers or fathers, and it just wasn't at all what they were hoping to get out of it.
Mm.
Because they were looking externally for the validation that they can only give themselves, and all
Totally.
that stuff. So a part of that was then I went to a thing called Human Resources, which was somewhere in the city. That was like a little like seminar where they introduced the process. It wasn't that long, about 3 hours. It was quite, the personnel was government, but they were quite heartfelt. And they just explained the process. And basically, they can give you the name of your mother, of probably just your mother, if and only your father if they were married. But if they're not married, they didn't even put your father's name on there, even if they knew who he was, even if he acknowledged his responsibility. And then also, the way it works is if anyone previously had put up a green flag, like a brother or a sister or anything like that, then when I came, they could approach me. And also, if I had put up the green flag and then my mother decided to go and find out more, because I put up the green flag, she could come and find me. But the way it works is the children have the right, I don't know if that's the right word, but the children can access their mother whether she's ready for it or not. And I don't know if that's fair or not, but that was the circumstance when they were the guidelines when I was doing this in 1999 or somewhere around there. And he goes through and he says, all I can do is tell you their name. And then we get to go to the electoral roll. It's incredibly easy to find someone. And you go to the electoral roll at the state library, literally from there. And you just go through it and you look up the person and find there's only 4 people with their full name and their address. And then you just go write a letter to all 4 of them and say, I'm just writing regarding, a relation that we might have in common, something quite neutral around late 1960s, et cetera, et cetera. So that was that. And then I said, okay, cool. And the guy came and he gave me my mum's name and he kind of had an indication about my father's names, even though because his name was written on I'll keep them anonymous, but his name was written on his first name was written on there. And my mother was later married to a man with the same name. So that enabled me. So you get to do all this sleuth work.
Wow.
And then what happened was he said to me, were you the guy that put up your hand? There's only like 30 or 20 of us in the seminar. You the guy that put up your hand about siblings? Like, as you know, I'm reasonably eloquent. I'm like, I don't know, I must have been sure. I go, no, I don't think so. And he goes, what do you mean by, I said, what do you mean by siblings? He goes, like a brother or sister. Was it you that put up your hand about a brother and a sister? And I said, no, I'm sure I didn't. And he said, well, but if you did put up your hand around a brother or a sister, if you did have a brother and sister, would you be interested in knowing? And I'm like, yeah, of course I would. And he goes, I think I recall something about a brother or a sister with you. And he goes off and comes back and he goes, yeah, actually, you're right. Thanks for asking. You have a sister and she's like 2 years younger than you. I'm like 30 and she's 28 and she's in Canada on an island or something. And I'm like, what? And then he goes, yeah, I'll see if I can contact her. She put up her hand for the green flag type thing, like when she was 18. So it's all like, time doesn't exist because she's like 10 years ahead of me, but I'm only catching her now and all this. Anyway, within 24 hours, this is as I said, 1909, they've found this person who's living on an island off Vancouver with no power, just like, yeah, with her girlfriend, like chopping wood. And I know. And then they've contacted her, I don't know how. And then they've said, hey, would you be interested in talking with Jason? She's like, yeah, sure, I'd love to. So then we started writing because talking would have just felt way, way, way too much. And writing you can read it again, it's so lovely. And we slowly got to know each other over a year. And at the following Christmas, she rang and we spoke to each other. It was so beautiful. And then
Wow.
9/11 happened and I was building down on the coast and I had all these beautiful contracts and things. And I just had this massive depression. And I just knew that no matter what happened, every step I took between now and getting there was to go and meet my sister. So I went and consciously said to these people, I'm not going to start your project because I know what I need to do. And if I don't live to get there, that's okay. But I'm not going to take a step in any other direction than getting on that plane. So I left my partner at the time. I bought a one-way ticket. I packed up everything I had and I headed over to Europe to meet my sister, who now was in the far west coast of Scotland near the Isle of Mull, in a place called Ardnamurchan, which is like looking out, counting whales at the furthest western point of the New Hebrides. So then I go to Scotland and I get on this train after going on benders with my crazy mate JC in Glasgow to the point where I thought I'd die. So I'd rather meet my sister than spend another day with JC. Because JC John Cunningham would wake me up in the morning because I'd sleep on my roll mat on his floor of his kitchen with a coffee and a platypus shaped bong. And it'd be 5 in the morning. And after 3 days of it, living with this man, Scotsman, I'm like, I got anything, even as scared as I am of meeting my sister, it's going to be easier than this. So bless JC for that. And I got on the train. I remember just this surrender. Like I couldn't have had a higher level of like nerves and frequency and vibrate. Just everything was on fire. But there's just a point where the body just says, well, this is as much as I can operate. And you're still going, Jason. I was just sitting there experiencing all that.
Wow.
And I got off the little train, really little train, like the train you catch the Dandenongs or something.
Mm.
And I walked down the platform in this country town called Oban. And there was my sister, and I held her, hugged her for the first time. And feel like crying a bit, but it was the first time I ever felt my own like essence in my realm. And it
Mm.
was freaking amazing. And I've felt it since because my wife and I have created two beautiful children and it feels the same. But
Mm.
yeah, it was super divine. And then, yeah, she booked this little room. We went and had a pint of Guinness. And then we went to this little room with a little window in between and we just slept. She slept on her single bed. I slept on mine. About an hour and a half, that's all it was. And I woke up and there's this little port town with, fishing boats rocking. And I looked across, and she's the only time I've seen another person sleep exactly the same as I do.
Wow. She does sound like just the feminine version of you with
Yeah, yeah, she's
like,
amazing.
that's incredible.
Yeah, and she now lives around here in Philippines. She's a wonderful masseuse, and yeah, it's amazing. So that really taught me something which I really wanted to share, which I learned as a truth in my body, which was fear is the doorway and courage is the key. And
Mm.
we're not talking about danger. We're talking about fear. They're entirely different things.
Yeah.
And I just found that walking through that doorway then just enabled me to access a sense of freedom and joy and permission that I never knew. And then from there, I was in France because I knew I didn't want to live and stay in Scotland but Europe's so small, you're only like an hour away from each other no matter where you are.
Yeah,
So
wow.
we pick up all the time. And then my cousin was amazingly, he was in these massive mountains called Chamonix. He said, come up. And I went up there and did some work. And then the guys, it doesn't happen in Australia. I went and did some work for a couple of weeks. And the guy paid me, whatever I was owed. And he just kept on laying $100, euro dollar notes in my hand, like to the count of like 7 or 8. And goes, come back. We'll see you at Christmas. We've got more work for you. And that's the European way. It's sort of like the WOG way, like, hey, hey, we'll look after you. You come back. They like pre-invest, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. No worries. I'll consider that. So I went back up there and I went back to where I was working in the south of France. I moved back up to the mountains and these are massive mountains. These are like 4,800 meters high. So they're the highest mountains in Europe. And it's the home of like the French ski school, the home of the French alpine guides, the home of the first Winter Olympics in 1914. It's just entirely glaciated, and most of the people who train for Everest train there because it's so steep. And so, it's an incredibly magical place, particularly at that time, because there were places there that only had just first been skied in the world or climbed in the world within the 10 years prior. So it was almost like being on the moon, like we were literally in a pioneering realm. And in day two, I met Renee. And then I'm like, whoa, this is a lot. And then within 6 months, Renee and I had organized ourselves to be together. And the work started to flow. And all I was really doing is I wouldn't have said that life was any easier, but it was just so much more complete because we were just following like our path. And things went on, and I learned so many things there around, trust and intuition and following passion. So, Renee and I didn't know each other, but she comes from Australia, and we both really enjoyed like these earth core, which were the kind of like tribal festivals in the forest in Victoria
Yeah.
in the late 90s with these amazing DJs. And you turn up to these locations, and wasn't money orientated, it was just full joy. And 1998, 1999, and so they didn't have those there, so we just found the tribe and started. At midnight, we'd invite all these people, and at midnight, we'd start hauling all this stuff. Well, probably about dark, we start hauling all this stuff like a kilometer up these mountains to these fields and set up these incredible sound systems and lights. And we'd take pump up canoes to put ice in, and Renee and her friend Kate would do chai. And we'd be up there, and it was like that movie, The Field of Dreams or whatever, like build it and they will come.
Yeah.
It'd be like midnight and there'd be no one. And then it'd be 12:30 and there'd be 20 people. And it'd be 1 a.m. and there'd be like 150 people. And I was learning to DJ at that time. And I'd start off because I was the most crap one. But by 4 in the morning, because it was Chamonix and all the best DJs from the UK were there, they literally all came up and fought over who was playing the hot set at 4 to 5 in the morning.
Wow.
I know, it's just incredible. And it was all just what we created. And yeah, so there's so many things from that. And then climbing. So this is where these friends were from for the weekend. And then climbing and mountaineering and paragliding. And then, I was with Johnny, who was here on the weekend, and we've been paragliding a lot. And paragliding's not like parachuting. You can actually travel. You can travel a long way. There's one, I'm not anywhere near this standard. There's a competition in the Alps that goes 800 kilometers. It's called the Transalps, and it goes from Austria to Monaco, and they only have a parapente, and they start and they can get to Monaco any way they like. 800 kilometers. They can run, they can roll up the thing. They just sleep in their parapente for 3 hours till the wind comes good and go again. And after all that work, they've got to land it on something the size of like a helicopter landing thing on a pontoon in the middle of the sea. And if they fuck it, it's done. And they do it in 4 days.
It's insane.
It's insane there.
800 kilometers.
In 4 days.
So from where you are in Vic, where would 800 kilometers be? Because I have trouble.
Sydney.
Sydney.
Sydney. Through the mountains. Only through the mountains. Because they need the mountains to get the lift.
Of course they do. So
it's like flying from Blue Mountains to Champions. Crazy.
That's
crazy.
Insane.
Crazy shit. And then in Chamonix as well, there's like a person a day dies from free will, pretty much. There's wingsuits, climbers, rock climbers, free stuff.
Wow.
And of course we know some of those people because they're the ones that are living there doing it.
Totally.
Yeah. So I was paragliding with Johnny, and we were going off this one section. It's about 2,000 meters, which is just what it is. And then we go down and then to about 600 meters, and then we traverse up. And I was traversing up, and the wind rode it on my wing, and like it's the sort of half of it folded under, and I just plummeted down. And it's not like you're falling. It's literally like the ground's just moving towards me, like just ridiculously fast. If you've ever done any bungee jumping or anything. It's literally that fast. So I'm like, whoa, this isn't good at all. And then one of my friends said to me, oh, like the trees are your friend. And when I looked down, there just was rock, just rock and grass. I'm like, I am totally fucked here because if I pull out of this, if I can get this thing out, like the wing out, I'm falling so fast by the time it like starts going forward, it's going to be going like probably 100 k's an hour more. Anyway, I crank it open and I'm just remembered the trees and my friends, and I just managed to crank into these trees, right? And just swung like that. And then I'm lying there, hanging there, and I'm reaching because I'm thinking of this like James Bond thing where the trees are going to collapse or Rambo, and I'm going to like fall. And I grab onto this tree. I'm like 30 meters from the ground, and I grab the tree and I just hold it, and it felt like holding my 3-year-old son.
Wow.
And I said to myself, well, I know what's way more important, and I'm going to let that go now. And this French farmer, and like you need to live in France, to understand the French, you need to live in France. And he essentially came up and said to me in French, you're a dickhead, here's a ladder, you can get yourself down, and put the ladder against the tree, and just fucking left me there. It took me about an hour and a half to get out. I had to leave my wing up there, which I didn't really care about.
Oh
I
my.
got down to the bar and my friend Johnny was down there and we had a glass of champagne. He goes, oh my God, I can't believe you're still alive. He said, I honestly thought you were dead. And I said, I know, it's incredible, but I'm declaring my commitment, which is I love my son. And for that reason, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I haven't done it since. So, yeah, there's just
But
so many.
you were a dad at this point.
I was a dad.
Wow.
And that's the other thing. We were the first people to have kids there that we knew. No one had kids there that we knew. And so we weren't even entitled to be in that place. We had no passports. I lived there for 10 years. Well, I worked out I've read all this legislation from like the precedents from the EU, like courts that said, oh, if you set up a company, they can't kick you out because you need it's like merchant law is just a synthesis of natural law, which is if you've created something, the creator needs to be able to stay there to protect their interests. So I
Mm.
found all these precedents and they all knew it, but they never promoted it. So
Yeah.
then when they came and audited me, they just said, oh yeah, okay, fair enough. We just want you to give us all your tax. And I said, no worries. That's fine. They go, oh, you can stay. And we just stayed and we just created this building company and built all these beautiful chalets for people and architects and we had our children. We had no idea how we were going to have our children there at all legally or anyway.
Mm.
Renee and I just got to this incredibly sovereign point of deciding to author our birth, like her birth, our child's birth.
Yeah.
So we just literally wrote it down in French and we just rocked up to the hospital and handed it to them. And they just looked at us like, you silly young kids, good luck with that. And we're like, no, this is like a declaration, which it just says declaration on it. And then they put us in this room. They said, oh, just come and let us know. Like Renee's waters had already broken and all the rest. And they're like, oh, I think we're ready. And the lady comes and goes, because we said, oh, no drugs, nothing like that, no doctor, just 2 midwives.
Yeah.
We'll cut the umbilical cord when we choose. We'll keep the placenta
Wow.
and we'll keep that. Mm, mm. You won't take the baby from us until
Yeah.
we are paid to. And they're like, yeah, yeah, sure, sure. And they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, but that's what's happening. And they come in and she goes, oh, let me check. And she goes, like, trips out. She goes, she's 5 centimeters dilated. And we go, yeah, we said we're ready. And we go in and Rennie just squats and I just stand behind her and hold her. And the baby just comes out in like 30 minutes, not even, Reuben, and just no crying and just crawls up to her, looks at her and she says, hello, baby. and he just starts feeding. I just want people to know, because I know there's so many people who have so much troubles, but it's also a possibility that that's not the case. It's
100%.
possible that it can just be beautiful if we move into our power, you know? And it's so important. And same
So,
with the second, exactly the same. We just chose, can create it, conceive, create it, and you know. But I think there's some important things to share in that, and
mm,
I mean, we don't talk about it, but I'm happy to, and I'm happy for it to just be one possibility in the realm of infinite possibilities, because we've heard about all the things that are incredibly, complex and convoluted around creating, and yet of all the aspects of source that we are as a fractal of source, the ability to create is the most closest one to being that. And that with itself holds great power and great responsibility. And Renee said to me a year prior to choosing to have Reuben, she said, "I'd like to have a child with you." And I can't believe, I actually don't believe you. Like, I don't believe that I'm honored and flattered that someone as beautiful and as powerful as you would ask that, but I don't I don't know that you know yourself well enough to be meaning that, That's where I was. I just didn't feel, I always felt like I could have a child and wanted to, but I also, having come through my journey, wanted to make sure that we were both fully responsible. That didn't mean staying together. We weren't married. That wasn't important. What it mattered was we were committed to doing what we were doing, which was being responsible.
mm,
And I said, if you ask me in a year, the answer is still yes, you know? And I just think it's really important to say this. Like, Renee never or hadn't used any like pill or contraception, which I think is super important.
mhm.
And I hadn't, I didn't either in any way. And I was listening to this really weird thing, I know, during the kind of lockdown shit with freedom people cranking on around, traditional roles and stuff like that. And these guys were saying, I reckon it's the pill that fucked things up, and they were older boys, and I could feel by the energy. And I reckon I've listened to every podcast I haven't wanted to listen to every time, because I want to know what it is that, like, I can't face,
Mhm. Mhm.
And I knew I just wanted to go and have a chat with those two old boys and say, it's not the women. And this isn't because you're a woman, I'm saying this. This is actually to the men. It's not the women deciding to control their reproduction. It's the capacity for the men just to come wherever they wanted without any responsibility for that which their power is. Now, if a man starts taking up his power again and realizing what it is each time he's doing it and where he's doing it, why he's doing it, how he's doing it, then maybe when he chooses to do it, it'll have some effect. So, like, I just don't hear anyone talking about that.
Mm,
But that's like the natural truth.
mm.
And so I just want that to be expressed and heard. And I don't know why I'm sharing it with you, but it's just super valid for that possibility to be a possibility. Because when we've got the feminine actually operating in the role of the feminine and moving with her natural cycles, and the masculine actually knowing what he's invited to create and choosing consciously to create, both our conceptions were at the time on the day with the sunlight coming through and the whole system changing,
Mhm.
literally. And so I just want to share that possibility with people. And then the harmony in the birth was high. And I think it's because the whole thing flowed and there was no support. We were 25,000 kilometers away from any family. None of our friends had kids. And we just had each other and, connection to our truth, which we didn't even know what it was till we journeyed. So yeah, that's all part of a lot of stuff.
I'm completely floored with your story, with your journey, with there's so many things. It was just absolutely delicious listening to you. And oh my gosh, there's so much that I could say about so many things that you said, but
Mm,
I just love the adventurous spirit that you have.
mm,
And but it's beyond an adventurous spirit because it's not just like, oh, well, I'll see where this leads me, kind of,
yeah.
it's so much deeper than that. It's like it's really always, I don't know, it just feels I just want to squeeze the most juice out of every opportunity, even if it's an opportunity where I'm maybe looking into my shadow or looking into places that feel a bit raw. Like, what is the opportunity in that,
Yeah.
you know? And I just think that's so profound and so powerful. I love that you allowed yourself to be magnetized to that door to take you in because that just take you down a whole other path that you never even could have ever dreamt of.
Right.
Just felt like that could be a movie and that is the point of no return. You know what I
Mm,
mean? It's just
yeah.
it feels like that was like a rebirthing type experience for you where you then actually went down a path of who the heck really am I? And not even intent, like I don't even feel as if that was the intention behind what you were doing to discover this thing about Jason. Do you know what I mean? But just, I don't even know the words to describe it. You would know the words to describe it.
Well, I suppose just going back to that aspect, it just took me to all the journeys that allowed me to. So that
Mm,
meant all those conversations with my adopted mother, my adopted father,
that's
my adopted
crazy.
brother, and then them feeling like insecurity and anguish, and my father choosing to be incredibly graceful and gracious in it, and my mother
Mm,
choosing to express like insecurity and fear and
mm,
a lack of like thinking that love is something that can be taken away and that's finite and that if it
yeah,
goes somewhere else she might lose some of it, and just choosing to go through all of that regardless, like that's what I got to choose to go through, and I just wasn't going to stop because those things were hard, and that's where the growth is, and that's like what I mean by over in Chamonix, like it wasn't any, definitely wasn't comfortable
yeah.
at any stage. I mean, we honestly, for years and years until we worked it out, like particularly having the kid, Ruben, the first child, was like, we could just be kicked out of here at any time. And for the feminine to experience that whilst she's pregnant, like I can say to any men listening to this, if you don't know who you are by the time your feminine's pregnant, by the end of that, you will, because she will literally put you through the fucking ringer to the point that she's sure you'll be enough. So
100.
it's just how it is. It's like
Totally.
she'll literally tear strips off the back to make sure that that's not going to stop you
Yeah.
being there. So that's cool. Like that's just what it is. If it's for me, if it's in its natural order, emotionally, psychologically, whatever. Hopefully not physically, but that'd be weird. I
Yes.
reckon in the old days it might have been though. Um,
Old days men were not allowed anywhere near the birthing woman.
yeah, I mean older, like
Older. Yes.
pre, yeah,
Yeah.
like when it really was like, um, yeah, so yeah, that, and then I suppose another thing I wanted to share, which I think also brought a lot of relevance to me, was just this. I was sitting in our home, and this beautiful man called Matty Muscles, who is basically one of the best looking, strongest humans in the world,
What's his name?
Matt Muscles. He worked for me.
His
And
name's Matt Muscles.
I know I
That's
forget.
his name for you, or that?
His name is Matt, and his last name escapes me at the moment. But he's basically this Welsh, just James Bond, basically, just
Wow.
James Bond, and beautiful and like a good Englishman, softly spoken, but just ruthlessly powerful. And he said to me, "I think we could climb that one day soon this year." And it was winter, and it's the top of the Mont Blanc, which is the biggest mountain, and you can't get there. And I said, I was like, I was so honored that he would even consider me capable of that.
Mhm.
And I said, "Oh, do you think so?" He goes, "Yeah, I think we can." So I said, "All right." He goes, "Well, this is," I said, "Okay, well, I'm prepared to give that a go. So let's give it a go." And I spoke around. Only one other person I knew had done it, and that was Sean Hudson. He'd done Everest twice. And he guided Everest one way. So he took a crew up to Everest and then guided Everest another way the next time. Like that's the kind of and then they're so humble. Like that's the thing. I come from like this is the first time I've ever expressed this stuff all at once because they're so humble. Sean Hudson's a photographer. When you shake his hand, it just feels like an accountant. I'm like, how do you fucking pull people up on ropes and suffer that altitude and have that mental power? And he's the most beautiful carpenter. We built this chalet and built these incredible stairs. And, they're these artists. They're just incredible people. So he's the only one and two other chicks, one Aussie actually, that climbed it and skied. So you can do it in summer pretty easy because there's no snow, but snow is quite, if it's big snow, going 10 meters is quite hard. There's no tracks or anything. You just got to like forge. Anyway, so Maddie took me up training, and the first training he took me up, we've gone up to 3,800 meters. So we live at about 1,000 meters. And he's taken me, had to walk about a kilometer, which is pretty hard. And then you get to this thing, and it's just this rock face with bolts in it that you could hook some safety in from your harness and the rope to him. And it was literally 1 kilometer, so 1,000 meters sheer drop. And he said, and it was about maybe 500 meters, 400 meters around to get round. So maybe 10 rope lengths. And he said, this is where you get to learn the difference between objective danger and subjective danger. And he said, objective danger is, in this reality, from the last thing you hook onto, the distance that you are from that when you fall, plus a bit of rope stretch. So if you're 2 meters from your last bolt and you fall, you're going to probably fall 3 against the rock and it's going to hurt, but you'll be okay. And the 1,000 meter thing, that's all just distracting you from getting the bit that you're doing right. And that was day one. And I'm like, holy macholy, man. Like, okay, here we go. And it's like -20 and going around. Crazy. So we just trained like that for ages. And then, yeah, slept up there. We slept up in this cabin that was up there. You had to walk up there. You have ropes between you because it's all glaciated. And if someone falls, the glaciers are about 50 to 100 meters deep, the crevasses. And if they fall, you have to like whack my ice axe down so that he's tied to me and same for him.
All right.
You go up to this cabin and we slept there and it was really cold and it's really high and it's like breathing a bit through a straw and we drink a little bit of whiskey just to try to pass the night and sleep in these massive sleeping bags. And literally a meter off the door, you could have a wee if you needed one, and a meter and a half off the door, you were falling 1,000 meters. So it's just this extreme environment where I just became really clear around the difference between natural law and synthetic law. Like I could pretend it was okay to walk a meter and a half, but the reality was that wasn't okay. So it doesn't matter what I think. It's
Yeah.
like there's certain rules in this realm that we're bound by. They're
Yeah.
all very fair and reasonable. They're very transparent. and just learning them and understanding them helped a lot. So yeah, that's about it. And then we had the COVID show, which you know about.
Mm.
And that was just an opportunity for me to, so I came back in 2012 and then I set up my building company here and I did that for ages. And then there was just this opportunity that I always knew when it came, I always, whatever it was, I always knew what I'd do. And it's like, oh, this is it. I'm just standing in my truth and I'm going to stand for the people that I employ and subcontract, and I'm not supporting any of this. So,
Mm.
I'm not consenting in any way. And more than that, you've now like opened the lion's den. So here we go. So that's sort of what's happening now.
I just absolutely love everything that comes out of your freaking mouth. It's
Mm.
so delicious. The journey is amazing. It sounds like you really lived your life. Um, you really lived your life in a way that you just took it on with your own two hands. You know what I mean? You just took it on with your own two hands and you learned, you didn't necessarily adopt any of the, potential pre-existing or um, things that, what am I trying to say? You didn't necessarily adopt any belief systems of what is possible and not possible. You were like, no, 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 I'll tell you what's possible because I'll go and figure it out myself with my own two
Mm.
freaking hands and my own two freaking feet, my own two bloody eyes, you know?
Mm.
And that's exactly what you did to the most extreme. You took it to the most extreme place you possibly could. But that's what a true, explorer, adventurer, but also scientist type energy
Mm.
does. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm putting myself to the absolute limit. And,
yeah.
what you shared about Renee and the birth and
Mm.
the masculine and like just, oh, gold is dripping from that story because there's no possible way that in a foreign environment without any other support or any real security in life, right, that a woman could give birth in a deeply sovereign way
Mm.
inside of a foreign system
Mm.
and it be the most beautiful, calm experience. There's no possible way that that is possible if deeply within the connection between the two of you is a deep bone marrow level safety that exists,
Yeah.
that she knows you're the masculine, you're the protector, you're holding the space, you're protecting the cave, any threats, they deal with you, and she's just free to be in her feminine and surrender over. And oh my gosh, does that birth experience just absolutely describe your son to a T? To a T.
He never cried. He didn't cry. They they don't
It's
have
just
to.
love. Why cry when love, pure love is present and real, So it's all so beautiful and it's absolutely incredibly powerful what you shared about the intention and the responsibility and respect that
Mm.
if a man can have that for his own
System.
system,
Mm.
then what that empowers energetically, emotionally for the feminine, for the woman, like in that in itself is a deep underlying, I can't even describe like net of safety that a woman can feel because women, we feel things beyond what the naked eye can tell you. These are the things that we feel, and it's in that we feel the true safety and support and love and connection. And, that I can be vulnerable. I can be vulnerable. I'm allowed to be vulnerable because I know at this very deep level,
Yeah.
my back's gotten, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like literally physically,
Yeah, literally. Yeah, gee,
literally, and also in all the ways.
mm,
And, you know, for someone who you had such a rocky freaking start, you know, to the world, to this journey, you literally had an open heart. You know what I mean? Like this, your heart was not complete.
something going on, but yeah.
Yeah, and it just I don't feel as if at any point in in your journey that you were focused on like, oh, this is the end result. I've got to get there. I've got to do this. I've got to achieve this. I've got to da 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 da.
Ever.
Do you know what I mean? It was just in the journey. It was full blown. I'm
Yeah,
in this journey called life. I'm feeling,
yeah.
I'm experiencing, I'm living, I'm breathing. I'm sometimes not breathing enough.
Yeah.
Then, then breathing too much, I'm almost dying a lot of times. Like, you know,
Yeah.
this is just like, I don't know, it feels very much like a epic, monumental journey of healing and discovery that all was done in service of like humanity.
Well, it is now if I can like be of service to humanity. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's now that a lot of the trauma that I was experiencing, you know, particularly from 0 to 28, and then, you know, really fell off, was highlighted and fell off when Ruben came, which was when I think I was 35.
Yeah.
Uh, but Rennie tells the story, and it's very beautiful, the picture you painted me. You've also, as I'm sure you sense and know, there's an incredibly strong feminine there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she also had the strength for allowing me to be me, um, to whatever degree was possible without, you know, like sacrificing the family,
Yeah.
essentially, my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even that Ruben was probably 4 when I climbed Mont Blanc and skied off the top of that. So once that was done, that was done. Oh yeah, that's right. I was pretty poor. I couldn't stay in the hospital very long once Ruben was born. I couldn't fucking. I could the energetic memory or something tripped me out. So
Incredibly.
I just said, give me jobs. Let me buy jumpsuits or rocking things or something. And
Yeah.
I just go out and try to, and I come back and I do whatever I could, which might be like 2 hours, and then I go out and come back. But I just had to keep getting these breaths of air there because yeah, like my memory, I think they kept me in hospital after I was literally separated. Like they wouldn't let my mum touch me, and I was 2 weeks in that with just the nurses, and I think they're quite loving, but you know, like you know what it's like having the
I
child, all the
do.
child wants is the mother, and it
Yeah,
can't.
it's incredibly traumatic for all
Yeah,
parties. I've
yeah, oh, absolutely,
I've
yeah.
been there when the separation has happened, and it's just the most unbelievably
Mm,
like traumatic thing you could even
mm,
comprehend, you
yeah.
know. So if that doesn't just disappear, that you know, they'll say things to you like, oh, you know, they don't have memory at this age, so they won't remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Total BS. You definitely
Yeah, yeah. Energy just doesn't disappear like that.
doesn't. And the
It
body memories
gets
as
trapped
well.
in the body, you know?
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
trapped in the body, and then the somatic work gets done in order to help release that at deeper and deeper levels. And then as we go through those journeys of releasing, then what I've found is the more releasing there is, and now I'm getting towards, you know, closer towards seeing the bottom of the barrel of whatever the traumas are, and they continue. I'm not pretending they don't, but what's left is just this service now. It's like,
Yeah.
well, what's next? There's not that many. pieces of shit left to pick up and examine. There's now, and it just feels natural. It's not. It just is. It just is.
And it's really important as well because a
I
lot
see
of,
that in you too. Sorry, I just want to say, like, I clearly see that in you. So, because I listen to your podcast, I feel your energy. I've done your course. I have love for you. I know who you are as a soul, I feel. And I see that in your service is just coming through because you're clear enough to offer it, you know?
yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. It you know, it's wild because on one hand, you don't feel clear at all, but on the other hand, you're the clearest you've ever been. Right.
Yes.
And,
Yeah, 100%.
and it's I think it's what I found is that it's really valuable when you have space, when you have capacity, offer. Because there's someone out there that doesn't have as much space, that doesn't have as much capacity, that needs that. And I think that goes into natural law as well. It must.
Yeah,
You
for sure.
it's yeah, you're not just going to be out there on the freaking edge of a glacier and say, sorry, I've got all this space you can't be on. You can't because I don't know you and you're a different
Yeah,
color than me. And do you know what I mean? It's like, no, 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 please, please
totally.
join me on my little space that I have.
Take a hand. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and like wherever you're at on the journey of healing, people think I have to go through all of it and come out the other end completely. But then a lot of the time, what can happen is you're too far for a lot of people. There are a lot of people that, you know what I mean? It's like you've transcended so much of yourself that now there's a whole world of people that may not relate and be able to get value and juice and, from all the different aspects of your journey. So whenever we have space, whenever we have capacity, offering that and like, hey, this is what I did, or there's an opportunity, not telling you what to do, but freedom is possible from whatever constraints that you're in. So I love it. I love that you are now, you know, performing that part of the natural law aspect of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So tell me, pure potential. I absolutely freaking love the name of this because it just describes everything that you just shared with us. Every moment you were squeezing the juice of the purest potential of what could be possible in this current right now situation.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. Well, I can share my banner. I'll start with that. We're really thrilled to have we feel so blessed to have got the name because we're like I can't remember we were just Renee and I were just talking. We're like, how about pure? Yeah, it just came up, and we're like, that's got to be gone. And we looked at it, and it's there, and we're like, no way, that's amazing. So it's called Pure Potential Life in the public realm.
Mm.
And there will be more of a private aspect, or there is more of a private realm, but that would just be called pure potential, and that will be for people more in, like private agreement type arrangements, which is
Mhm.
what we do. The men's retreats, which are, 24 hours in the nature around fire, where men come at midday and they bring an intention of something they wish to clear for themselves, and we share talking stick and hold space, and men mostly for the first time in their entire life, even if they're
Mm.
60. So we have guys ranging so far probably from late 20s to maybe 65.
Wow.
And then the one, which is the best. And they realize the natural nature and the beauty of the masculine in its capacity to create protection in order for vulnerability to be expressed, and then creation just comes. you don't even need to provide solutions. They're just everywhere. Like it's incredible. Like one other man's expression is another man's solution, and he's not even talking to the other man's problem. That's not how it's done. And so these men, one beautiful man said to me at the end, I really super grateful for this. You know, we all have a sense of declaration and at the end. And he said, I'm really grateful for this. And I look around me and I look around all these beautiful men. These are guys you just know for 24 hours. These beautiful men and all the protection and all the support and all the expression, all the learning and the evolution that I've had. And the only thing is that where I am, I don't see that there's men like this there. And I said, Sam, all now that your eyes have changed, you'll probably see them everywhere
Mm.
because they are.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I've done, I think we've done maybe 10 of these, and they're about 3 months apart each season of the year. And they're everywhere, these men. But we need, like your podcast said, you need to have real eyes to see them.
Mm.
And it takes courage to be able to express my true essence for them to see me.
Mm.
But it's sort of a bit of an art, and then it comes round. And then that's one of the things we do. I created that with a friend called Damien Churton. He's a lovely man. He's an English guy, actually, that I know from Sham as well. Bless him. We won't hold that against him too much. Um, he's quite posh too, which I like. I kind of find it quite fancy. Um,
That's
he's in.
incredible. Can I just speak on what you just shared about the work? What do you call this workshop? This is
It's called a 24-hour men's empowerment retreat, I think, something like that. Yeah,
wow. It sounds
yeah,
like
that's cool.
it sounds like a 24-hour elixir shot.
Mm.
I just feel like for 24 hours is not a long time, particularly,
Oh,
so I just feel like the energy must be incredibly potent to achieve what is then achieved. And of course, there's no necessary like this must happen, but they each come with something. So 24 hours, that's not a long time. And what you said about these beautiful, incredible men are everywhere. They really, really, really are. And this is actually to share from the feminine perspective and just to be incredibly like got my guts out here is how vulnerable I'm about to be.
mm.
The man in my life, I would have a year ago sworn to you through the teeth. His whole intention was to, I don't know, get in my way, right? Sworn to you till I was black and blue. I probably wouldn't have because I have some level of respect, right? But internally, this is what I was dealing with, right?
Yeah,
That,
your lens, yeah.
yeah. And just crazy, wild stories that I'd come up with in my head that whenever he did do something for me, I'd have to manipulate it and turn it into something, very like very just terrible. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just do this because you like the money that I make, or like horrible, horrible, horrible stuff.
Mhm.
And because I want to share this because it cannot just be on the man to be the man, right? So much of it has to do with the feminine and the impact from the feminine. And
Mm.
we have all gone through such abuse at a societal level on both our feminine and our masculine and what it really means and what it really is and all of the above. And you know a little bit about the kind of abuses and things that I had. So I had quite a thing when it comes to men and lots and lots and lots of stuff. And through really intense therapy this past year. Like I have been working on healing myself for, well, I don't even know, like half my life, you know. It just feels like never ending. But admittedly, there was a level where I had done all this healing work and my husband had not. So I somewhat wore it as a badge. I could see things that he hadn't because I'd been through it and all of this crap, like insane, right? And I learned from my therapist that we made an agreement. The actual stats is 90-10, where 90% of your triggers are actually an overlay from a child part or a past experience or trauma or something along these lines. 10% of the time when you're triggered, you're reacting to the actual present moment,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
right? And
Totally.
we came to an agreement because I'm more comfortable with 80-10. So for me, it's 80-10. 20%. Come on, I'm holding on.
It's not my lens. No, it's not me. There's lions running
It's
towards me
definitely.
everywhere. Can't you see them? All the lions running towards me. It's not me.
So for me personally, it's 80-20.
What the fuck would she know? Fuck
Right?
her. Get me another one. Oh, that's great, Gigi. I'm glad you organised that.
Yeah, and well, it keeps getting brought up and she'll go to say 90-20 and then she'll
Yeah.
adjust and correct us.
81-19.
Sorry, it's 80-20. And yeah, through all of this deep like ripping of the weeds, you know,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the first time ever, for the first time ever, I cannot even tell you how incredible this experience was, but it was like all of a sudden I had new eyes, just like you said, I had new eyes and I could see. I could
Mm.
see. Because not only
Yeah.
part of the reason why I couldn't be with the fact that he was doing things for me, that I had to come up with some
Yeah.
easy reason why he was doing them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because I didn't have the capacity to be loved. I didn't know how to be loved, that I could be loved and that someone would do something from love. I had this weird warped relationship with what love was, given what I experienced and what I was, literally given in my life. So that's the only way that I related to anything that he did was, oh, this is what he calls love. You know what I mean?
Can I just say, just that his actions didn't match your narrative.
Not in the
So
slightest.
you made a story around his actions to match your narrative. Like
100%.
he's only doing this for because it obviously can't be for that he loves me because I'm not lovable.
100%. Like it's impossible. And I, of course, wouldn't connect those last little dots there. But when I saw it for the first time ever, I can't even explain to you, Jason, what this experience was like. It was crushing, but equally the most like I had just stepped, I'd been climbing and climbing and climbing this freaking mountain my entire life, seeing nothing else but the mountain face in front of me. And all of a sudden, I get to the peak
Mm.
and I'm seeing the most incredible view. But at the same time, I'm realizing that all I had to do the entire time was turn my head slightly to the left and I would have seen it the entire way. You
Mm.
know, so
Yeah, it's everything at once. Yeah.
it's everything all at once. And I remember sitting like flabbergasted,
Mm.
like, oh my God, you're amazing.
Oh, that's the best.
Like you're actually the most incredible, like you've got a heart of actual gold. Like I've just put you through so much and you just kept, and it was really like he was like, wow, you really had no idea. And I was like, I really had no idea. Like not
Oh,
at all. It wasn't like he was like, I thought you maybe were putting it on a little bit, maybe. No,
Yeah, yeah,
like I really had no capacity to see, and now I'm seeing it everywhere, and I'm like, what do I do with all of this? You know,
yeah.
so these men,
Start to feel it. Just start
oh,
to
and the
feel it. That's it.
safety and the vulnerability, and just allowing myself, because
Yeah.
oh my gosh, the fierce level independence that I had to be my whole life, and all of a sudden I don't have to do that, and just allowing him to make decisions, which is something I would never do because that's too risky for me, right? So allowing him to make decisions, asking him for his opinion and thoughts, and letting him know that I actually just I'm too tired. I'd never admit to that before, because it was a threat to stop at any point. So I just had to say, like, the work that you're doing is unbelievable because it absolutely is so incredibly impactful for the masculine to be in an environment where they're never seen,
Totally.
right? And then, of course,
Not
that
taught.
leaves them not seeing themselves.
Mm.
So
Yes.
these men are actually, as you said, they really are everywhere, right in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. And you know, it they are. And whew, thanks for that story.
Sorry to derail you a little bit.
Oh, not at all. No, it's perfect. So that's the other kind of work I do on the coaching aspect, which is literally helping guide people to their subconscious lenses. And I can use the language that they use, which you could also the language that uses them, that actually creates their inner world,
Yeah.
and I can hear it. And I obviously, as you know, can channel and use intuition, and I don't know what mix it is of those things, and listen. And essentially, through all those things, sometimes it's just when the person makes the appointment, and I just hold them in mind, the aspect of them that what essentially, Gigi, and I think you get it because I've seen you work. It's like once they've invited you and given us permission,
Mm,
then we have permission to see what we see.
mm.
And I'm, because of my proliferation of fucking nines, I've got 3 nines, as you know, GG. And I want to talk about the nines. I'm bringing back the Save the Nines Club, right? The nines are all right on the night club.
Yeah.
Let's fight for the right to be nine. My latest one is nine's the new eight.
Totally. That's so good. I
So
love
I'm working on all this stuff to free up the prejudice that we've got against the nine.
Yeah.
And
You
for the,
have it a lot under in your soul numbers as well.
yeah, so I guess what that allows me to do is to see where the trauma lay. And it's normally not in the circumstance, but in the story that the individual's created to make sense of the circumstance
Yeah.
at a younger age, normally pre-sovereignty.
Yeah.
And for a lot of men, that could mean pre-50 or 60. They may not have reached 70 yet. Sorry, guys. They may not have fully stepped into what it is to not look externally for authority.
Mm.
But most of it happens to us when we've got no choice, and we're normally in, like, as a child, and we form a lens to make sense of a story. So, in a very soft form would be, a child's father, for example, we'll just put it in the boy realm because it's, it doesn't need to be a harsh example. Um, the father's version of, um, okay, yeah, the father's working longer because his version of being like a supportive, protective masculine is to provide financial support.
Mm.
So the child is used to seeing his dad most weeknights, and all of a sudden he doesn't, and the child makes up the story to make sense of the circumstance because he's got no understanding and no agency that he isn't loved.
Mm.
which isn't true. And the father's acting out of his decision to work more because he may have come from, well, let's say he did come from an underprivileged experience where his father was an alcoholic and he provided no support and he suffered the experience of having no abundance in his life. So he's
Mm.
created his story that abundance is providing money,
Mm.
and the child's created the story, I'm not loved and I'm not worthy because dad's not home, and neither of them are true.
Mm.
That's when you're 5 or 7 or whatever, that's what it is. But some people are still operating from those lenses when they're 40 and 50.
Yeah.
And an opportunity comes up in front of them. And like you were saying, they don't accept it or take it on because they don't think they're loved or they deserve it or they're
Mm.
not worthy. And it's not a truth. So my goal is, I guess, is to help people be back in tune with the infinite nature that they are, which is pure
Mm.
potential. There is
Mm.
no limit to us at a soul level.
Mm.
The avatar, through its contracts, takes on obligations, that'll do, responsibilities in order to resolve things so that creator can know itself better.
Mm.
And in that journey, there's free will. And I suppose the way that we can operate most in free will is when we release the things that bind us so that we can be the expression, which for me, I see it as source coming through this unique filter of codes, if you want to if you want to put it like that, using the numerology lens and being expressed.
Mm.
It can be expressed at its highest if it hasn't got all these like shades in front of it saying, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not. It's literally just out. And so I suppose I don't look to fix anything. I just look to take away the stuff that's blocking us from being all that we are.
Mm.
We don't need to fix anything.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
We have to move away the limitations.
That's right.
So yeah, that's the one-on-one stuff I do, and I like doing.
Yeah.
And it's a bit deeper, but it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm not there to be. I don't do the work. Like I was thinking about this with you actually. Like I witnessed. I'll just say it. I don't know if I've expressed it to you, and I hope it's okay. But I was witnessed incredible healing through all the participants. It's actually like financially at minimum the most cost effective healing course you could ever go on if you wanted to get yourself from A to B. Don't worry about the numerology. If you're a bit fucked, just go see Georgie and you'll be fine. You'll evolve beyond belief. I like making you crack up.
Love that so
Yeah.
much. But, massive, a big part of my intention for that course is healing occurs through this process, and
Yeah,
and it's
it
not like
does.
that. Yeah. And yeah, because I like yeah. Yeah. I think you've just similar to you in a way that if you're going to commit and devote yourself to something, anything, personally, I'm the kind of person that just wants to get the absolute most out of that thing that I can possibly get out of it. And so that's the same way that I go about this course is that like, and I think I love that aspect. That's part of the reason why I love numerology so much is because it covers so much. It's so broad because of the nature of numbers being literally every facet of our reality. So you can, through the lens of numbers, you can bring at the same time, you can bring clarity, direction, and healing all at the same time.
Yeah,
And that's like those three things clarity, direction, and healing are at the top of most people's list.
yeah,
You
totally.
can do
I
that
agree.
all at the same time. So
Yeah,
I'm so interested in people exactly the same as you being able to access, experience, and of course, express their fullest, their highest, their biggest expression that they are,
yeah,
whatever that is for them.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so I suppose what I've been learning, and I feel like you exemplified beautifully when I experienced your teaching, was I just want to explore this. I don't know the answer, and I don't know that many people do, but I've heard people tune into it a bit, and that maybe there aren't any healers. Maybe there's just people that hold space of unconditional love really, really well. And that on its own is so healing because that allows our true nature to express, which is all that we need to heal.
Yeah, I feel like crying right now. That's so beautiful, and it takes me back to the birthing experience.
Yeah.
You're not you're not birthing the baby. You're you're both not the baby being born, and you're also not the one birthing the baby.
Mm,
But it's if you were not there, that would have been a very different story.
yeah.
It's the
Yes.
holding, it's the facilitating, it's the this shall be, it's the, it's that it's just creating for me safety, first and foremost, safety and love and acceptance of wherever you are on your journey,
Mm,
whatever you're doing, whatever it is,
mm,
you're going to find yourself and be able to express yourself and whatever that is. It's like if this was if my home was I don't even know, like I facilitated a space for children to just come and play freely as they're in their own free will to do whatever the heck they want. If they fall, I'll be there to catch them. This
yeah.
is safety for you to play and be free exactly however that looks and whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
I think that is where true healing can then occur because
Yeah.
it's oh, oh, oh,
I'm starting to feel
so
like the
beautiful.
more I explore it, it's like actually in our nature, there's to just like naturally heal and on all levels across and in community.
Yeah.
And it's just the interference. It's um we haven't yet remembered that, but I think we're in the process of remembering it. And like structured water, I've been really enjoying a bit of a journey with that. And there's this amazing guy called Masaru Emoto who's in Japanese scientist in the 1970s, and another lady called Veda Austin in New Zealand, who
Mm,
they take crystallite photograph, they freeze the water, they put intention to it and freeze it, and they photograph the crystalline structure and intention of love and peace have incredibly beautiful shapes, and hate and anger and separation and things like that, despair, have incredibly distorted and ugly shapes,
mm,
all versions in between. So we have tuned into this, and this isn't a promotion. It's just like this. There's lots of them. There's, analemma is one of the crystalline. I hold. It's like a crystal glass container holding very high frequency water with incredible crystalline structure.
mm.
There's another one. I'll think of them because I'd like to call them out because it's just lovely what they do. Mia Water's another, and I'll think of the other one. Granda is the other. They're both Australian. The one
Okay.
I've got is from Denmark. So we can get water that's filtered and neutral, right? Almost dead, essentially. It's got no essence. Like on we might get a chance at this time or another time to look at like David Hawkins' hierarchy of consciousness, but it's probably just barely neutral, right? It's not doing anything, this water. And
Mm,
this water in this one is like super high frequency, like at the highest frequency of like authenticity and peace. Yeah.
mm,
And I
mm.
can take this one that's in this little, I was going to bring it in, but I forgot. It's like, and I can mix it into this cup, and this water changes to the same frequency as the one I put in there through memory. It remembers what it is.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, my mind is going into so many different directions right now. That's
There's
incredible.
there's so much evidence around it. Like there's so much science around it that it's not disputed.
Yeah.
And so we can then put that water in us and wear water.
Yeah.
So the same with us. When we remember that which is within us,
Yeah.
we just become it again. So
Mm.
I think when we hold space for people in unconditional love, really they remember the unconditional love within themselves. Because that's where the toxicity lay, right? Like things,
You're
yeah,
like you're like the high frequency water and you're swirling yourself around.
yeah, pretty much.
Mixing, mixing with all these other people, raising their frequency,
Yeah,
of their water in their
yeah,
system.
yeah,
Like that's actually what's occurring, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
that's
totally.
actually the deal.
Yeah, that's the deal. And nature does it the same. Like it's not just me. Like if we put people in nature in an uninterfered way,
Yeah.
particularly drinking this sort of water with, rainforest and,
Mm,
you know,
lots of mycelium.
connection and no EMFs and all that, it doesn't take long before they remember that within themselves, their true nature. So I think that's a big part of it as well. But in the bridge period, which I think we're in now, it's just those of us who can to hold the space,
Mm.
to kind of fast track. Because I guess what I got to with all those stories and all that, between 0 and 35, there was just a truck ton of suffering, of separation and story. And I actually met my dad after I met my sister. I met my dad. I came back to Australia in 2012. And that was why I came back. I wasn't intending to come back or anyone would come back. And then I'm like, well, if I'm back, try to meet my mum. And she couldn't come to it. It's just too much trauma. Um, and however, I met my dad and I had all these stories about my dad, like just shit tons of stories about all sorts of things. And I can't even remember what they were, but they were really well forged for like 42 years, and none of them were true. None. It's just this lovely man sitting on a park bench in North Carlton at Curtin Square, waiting to meet his son for the first time in his life. That
Mm.
was it. It's not more complex than that.
Wild.
Got his story around how he got to relinquish his son and explain how he had no authority in it, really, no support, nothing. They just told him that he'd be outcast and the black sheep. And yeah, it's like, wow, all these stories I had about you, none of them are true. What a waste of energy that was.
Hmm.
You want to be friends?
Mm. That's great. But you somewhat needed those stories, you know.
Yeah, they made sense of stuff, and that's okay too. But it was also really important for me to see them not be true,
Oh, 100%.
just as I
And
created them,
but it's also a testament to someone who's willing for them to not be true as well. Because you can be, just like I was, my feet were dug in the ground about this man
Yeah,
that I married.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And, all men, I will say, all men, of
yeah, for sure.
course,
And the 80-20 rule.
still stands to this day. I will have my therapist back it up if required.
And the last thing that we're doing, which is probably my proudest creation, I don't like that word because it's not very high frequency, actually. It's because it's still coming from attachment ego rather than service, but that's okay. There is pride there. I was really inspired one day and I created this workshop called Power of Word, Power of Creation. And it
Uh,
enables people to tune into their frequency, understand. So, do you know what abracadabra means?
I have heard this, but please, please, please.
So, it's Hebrew and it's a bit like numerology.
Mm.
It's the ancient and it says, as I speak, I create.
Oh.
So, I would offer to you, my sister, that numerology creates the codes for the contract and the canvas that we come here with, and words are the brushstrokes that we
Well,
reality. And
Oh,
if we don't know what we're doing, we're creating anyway. That's the thing. It's like the numbers. You can fucking not believe in them. It doesn't make a lick of difference. It
doesn't.
really doesn't. You can pretend words don't matter, but if you're telling yourself you don't matter, you don't matter.
100%. It's you can be used, you can use the numbers or you can be used by the numbers. You can use words or you can be used by the words.
Totally. That's exactly what I feel.
Yeah.
So there's a way that we can listen to our language, craft our language, understand natural law, understand the realm of offer and acceptance, which you really have a good handle on, responsibility,
Mm.
creation and responsibility. So it's not like privileges and rights, it's creation and responsibility.
Yeah.
That's all natural law. And
Yeah.
it's like we are responsible for that which we create. We have the right to walk this realm in peace of mind. We don't have the right to breach another's peace of mind whilst they're walking that realm, exploring that realm. If we do, we offer them harm. Oh, sorry, we offer them remedy proportionate to the harm. It's all very simple stuff. There's only about five of them. But
Mm.
it's just understanding that, then understanding how we create in that realm with word. And then Tesla said, he said, if you want to understand this realm, think of it in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Energy, call that force, something like that, power. Then, what frequency is that energy expressing through? Now, I'll use a very extreme example, which I only used the other day. COVID. COVID wasn't the energy. The energy was the energy of change. Yep, the energy of change. Now, I know that I probably had, I'd say an infinite, but just let's limit it down to 1,000 or 100 previous opportunities to shift into a higher form of resonance.
Mm-hmm.
I ignored all those invitations because that's the realm. I was invited to create change in myself, and I don't know. I'm very comfortable, thank you.
Yeah.
So what happened is that frequency said, we don't care how the energy at a soul level expresses. It's still going to be expressed. It's coming through. So because you won't have any agency, you've left a void of which others can author into. And that gets to be authored through at a very low frequency through the patriarchal, you know, structure essentially in
Mm-hmm.
the form of force. And the vibration is the result which we experienced. But now people, and whether it's true or not, we'll find out or don't need to find out or whatever. They say, oh, they tried the same again, it wouldn't happen. The energy's still there, but it's now expressing in a different frequency, which is us choosing to create in that void, not leave. So it's like the energy's there of change, and now it's like, I don't really like the story that was offered to me, but the only reason why it was offered to me is because I didn't create my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I better get on with creating my own. No thanks, guys. Thanks for the offer, but I'm going to get on with creating something to be the change that I want to see in the world, which is what Gandhi said, which I think is really beautiful.
Mm.
Be the change I want to see in the world. And then that's where my agency is. And then, so therefore, that's the frequency that I'm operating out of, and the vibration will be the manifestation. Well, the same is the word. Like as something comes through, the frequency that we're in will determine the word that comes out and in vibration. So we're in a low frequency, it'll be words like have to, must, should have.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
They're just obligation, guilt, shame. That's all they are. And they're super low frequency and they keep us in low frequency. And we're
Mm.
taught that we have to do something. We're taught that we should do something and we're taught that we must do something.
Mm. Otherwise, we have
So,
no value.
yeah, we can, and you're really good at it, but we can move it into get to do something, choose to do something, allow ourselves to do something, enjoy doing something. I have to go to work, I enjoy going to work. Exactly the same energy, entirely different frequency.
100%. I love saying I get to do things.
Yeah,
I
I
love
know.
saying that. I get to,
Yeah,
ah, it's just, it changes the entire frequency.
entire frequency.
The entire frequency changes.
So we can
Yeah.
literally change frequency by language. So
Yes.
language determines our frequency, and our frequency determines language.
Yeah. It's so,
So we can create our reality. You know, yeah, that's the truth. What we're seeing now is just like the result of the expression of all that is through us. And the 8 that we experienced last year. Oh, yeah, this is one thing. Sorry, there's one thing I wanted to share around the 9s. Can I do that?
please.
Yeah, okay. So there's this really beautiful friend of mine. I think it's okay I mention her name. Her name definitely deserves to be mentioned, and I think, yeah, she's all right with it. So 2 years ago, she discovered or was told she had breast cancer, and it was about 4 months, maybe 6 months before she was to be married to a friend, and they met at Renee's 40th birthday. And she was told over the whatever they're called consults that if she didn't have chemo, she would die, essentially, right? So we're very, very close. She was from Chamonix as well. So I met her the same day as I met Renee. And Renee and her shared the same apartment. So we knew each other super well.
Wow.
We spent loads of life together. And she said to the doctor, and she shared this with us and me a fair bit. And she said, I'm not yet clear on my decision about the chemo. You can book me in for, 2 months or whatever, and I'll refer to it then. The doctor said, oh, look, you've got to get on with it because if you don't, time is, ticking bomb type thing.
Mm.
Okay. Who's just radical, like less radical now, but was super radical. And I hope that's okay, but she really is radical energy. She just stops eating that day, right? Water fast for 21 days and reset her entire body, right? And I was spending time with her, just went on this consciousness like fucking escalator and then started exploring the things that had caused the cancer, not the cancer. The resentment towards the masculine, the animosity, the anger, all of which may have been justified. I'm not suggesting that, but she was paying the price for holding the toxic, low frequency stuff. She's amazing. We're like day 18, and she's cooking like, sorry to the vegans out there, but she was cooking spaghetti bolognese for like 20 of us. And I'm like, how can you be doing this? She's like, oh, I'm just feeding off the fumes. I'm like, you're amazing. You're just going so well. And I even experienced people casting their fear upon her, going, oh, you're crazy. You're listening to all these new age, radical kind of healing modalities around alternative. And I'm
Mm.
glad I knew you, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to know you because you're going to die type energy, like literally an energy. I was there a couple of times, like, whoa, that's a lot to be casting upon it. You're not very responsible for your language, for example. Anyway, Kate came back and then she was incredibly careful. She'd done so much reading and she started like drinking just water with a bit of leaf in it, tea or whatever, then an apricot kernel and very soft, long, 1-2 year kind of re-entry. She had a bit of a journey, and then some people put a bit of heat on her. Some of these other people on the new kind of medicine sides, because she thought, I think I should get this thing cut out. And there's sort of some theories, if you get it cut out, it can activate it in sport. And I sat with her, and I don't take credit for this, but I just know the energy I was in. I said, if that feels right, then trust that, because it probably took you 20 years to create that. And there's the opportunity for you to choose to cut it out if that's the way you wanted to feel. But the thing is, now you've created in yourself the solutions to the reason why it was caused, so you don't need to create it anymore. and she got it cut out. And then they kept on telling her that she was going to come back. And a year later, she got a test on all her lymph nodes, and there's no cancer at all.
Hmm.
And I don't even know why I told you that story. I just want to do testimony to Kate, really. And there's just so much possibility in the world. I think that's really what I want to say.
You were talking about the nine energy.
Ah, yeah, thank you. So the cancer that Kate was diagnosed with happened way before she discovered it, which is the nine energy. It was there under the eight energy. It was there. The nine energy simply shows the individual what is already there to be healed.
Yeah.
Now, that next step is the agency within the individual that's being informed of what is to be healed to activate their creative power and come up with something that's going to create the most purpose and serve them the best. Not look outside to the authority that already created the symptom.
Yeah.
So when we're seeing all this stuff going on, the nine's not creating the problem. The nine's just shining the light on what was already there. And the opportunity is then to come into our like true essence and come up with a solution that enables it to be passed and healed so that we can then go into the ones, never needing to do it again, like what Kate's done. So
100%.
that's what I wanted to share with people, because I feel like there's a bit of like trepidation around the nines, like kind of waiting on the edge of a, I don't know what it is, but like a precipice, but it's an opportunity to actually transform.
Mm.
And it only comes from, it's not like the nine created it. That was already created in the one, two, three, four, five, six, and then particularly in the eight actually manifest.
Mm.
It's in the nine that we get to see it so that we can transmute it. I know you know that, but I don't know that everyone listening knows that. And um, the last one, and I know I'm pinging on, but it's you. Can you remind me of the Tesla and the numbers?
So Tesla he was particularly, I say that he was particularly obsessed
Oh,
with the numbers three, six, and nine.
yeah.
And so he said something along the lines of, when you understand the truth behind the three, the six, and the nine, you understand the truth of the universe, everything.
Well, I think I understand it.
Tell me.
Yeah. So I don't think, by the way, I
No.
don't know. So I worked out how am I going to explain to Georgie how I think? Have you ever seen those Mattel that when you're a kid, they're like this kind of 10 face thing with red and blue, and you fit all those squares?
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Yellow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
grew
yeah, yeah.
up with one of those, and I'd play with it for hours, and I'd try to fit the round, and then you pull it apart and they fall out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's more how I think. It's just like, ah. And then when it is, and when it isn't, it isn't, right? So it's just like, and then I pull it all apart again. So every toy I got until I was like 12, mum and dad thought I was like some sort of sadomasochist because I pulled it apart. And they're like, why were you so ungrateful? And it's because I'm not. I just wanted to see how G.I. Joe's arm worked or Bionic Man, how the. So,
Oh my gosh, you're
I
just
know.
so. I remember when we went through the sevens and it was just like
I
tick, tick,
know.
tick. And it's all coming, it's all there, everything. It's just so, it's like a symphony. Your energy is just like, it's a beautiful symphony. It plays just so beautifully.
So, the three, yeah. I'll let you. I reckon I can guide us through it, yeah. So the
Go, go,
three,
go.
please, in your words, explain what the three does, like you would if you just, doing your thing.
The threes, well, the threes for me actually represent consciousness, and
Yeah,
the verb of a three energy is a channeler. So
yeah,
the doing of the three energy is a channeler. They channel.
yeah.
They channel
Beautiful,
consciousness.
beautiful. Right, and I that's perfect. Then describe to me what the six is.
The six, this is ultimate creation. This is
Yep.
when you said the responsibility and creation, this is six energy.
Yep.
Sixth energy is physical, relate it to Mother Earth. Anything you plant on her, she's fertile, she creates, she births, you know,
Beautiful.
divine feminine, ultimate creation and
Mm.
responsibility.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Totally. Yeah, yeah, totally. And then what's the
I feel
nine?
like I'm in a test.
Oh, it's just that if it comes from me, it's better coming from you. So what's the nine? It is like you created the fucking thing, not me. I
I love it.
have no place here. I'm just here to prove something.
I
True
love
word.
it.
Yep. So
So
the nine. So what's the nine do?
well, the nines are energy, frequency,
Yep.
vibration. That is nine energy. So the nines are the frequency that all operates on, all
Hmm.
creation, all consciousness, all physical, all matter. The nine energy is the blueprint in which all of that operates on or inside of or from.
And what's the purpose of the nine, though?
The purpose, the highest purpose of the nine energy is ultimately for, oh, Jason, this is so good because I feel this is so good. So the highest purpose of the nine, the word that's coming to me is connection.
Yeah, right.
The reason why is because
Interesting.
everything is energy. We are all actually one. We are all actually connected and together and part of the same consciousness construct. DNA strands exist within you, that they exist within me, within the trees, within, so I feel the highest purpose of the nines is actually connection, but maybe not but is the right word, but and an
Mm.
expression or a necessary requirement for that level of connection is healing. Like that is the verb of the nines, so to
Yeah,
speak.
to see which is that which has been created and transmuted into a higher expression is
Yeah.
like so. So we've got channeling, we've got then the manifestation in the six, and then we've got the acknowledgement of what's been created and seeing where it worked and where it didn't, and so it can be transmuted, right? So imagine we've got source energy coming through the soul, channeled. Then the soul goes and does the sixth thing and creates. Then the nine says, well, how good was that? And lets source know itself. And then the one and the two play their little leadership game like wankers. So, no, I'm joking.
So much.
Because they're not really the creators. No, I'm joking. They're just really following the nine. No, then the one and the two go do the thing, but the three actually brings down the information.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like it's literally source coming through the fractal in order to know itself better. The fractal then expresses itself and in free will manifests on this plane for the lessons to be learnt so that God or creator, whatever your word is, can know itself again.
100%.
That's how I
And
see 369.
yeah, absolutely. It's just 100%. And as you said earlier, once you can know thyself,
Mm,
the highest truth or expression or whatever, it doesn't even have to be the highest, but just your natural expression,
mm,
then you just become that.
mm,
So the more we can channel, create,
mm.
and transmute, the more we can all.
Yes.
you know. And the beautiful what you're actually expressing about the nine energy is really beautiful because I and I shared this on a podcast that just went live today.
I saw that. I didn't see it. I saw it. I dared not watch it because I thought it might prejudice my conversation with you.
I'm really glad.
Bad.
No, I'm really glad that you did because this is really naturally building on everything that I spoke about and always
Yeah, beautiful.
in a very beautiful, natural, organic way.
Yeah, great.
But something that I recently learned was that there was and I'm terrible at, you know me, I'm terrible at remembering names and I'm terrible at remembering birth dates. The two things that are the most valuable things for a numerologist.
I am too. I can't remember people's names, and I don't mean anything by it.
No,
It's really
terrible. I'm shocking.
it isn't it isn't honourable. Like it's not honourable. It doesn't sit well with me.
Nah,
I'd
but
like to be better.
I'm
Like
going to challenge it. I'm going to challenge that because I like something that I like to do is to always reframe something so that it is an empowerment rather than a disempowerment, right?
sure, nice.
So I'm going to reframe this thing and I'm going to say it, not remembering someone's name is almost a compliment
How?
because the name signals separation between beings,
Oh, I love it. Well, that is how I feel.
right? So
Yeah,
actually, what you're saying is that I remember your soul energy, which you
totally. Yeah,
do. You
I
remember the
totally,
person's soul frequency.
totally. Yeah.
The name doesn't exist for you in that
Not,
realm.
not really. No.
So that's there you go.
Thank you. I feel permission. Just to be clear, too, when I was going through that Tesla thing, I had no connection to the nine, and I had no connection like because of my nines. I didn't even think about that when I just it just occurred to me that's possibly what he was referring to was literally like fractal channeling energy, manifesting, and then the reflection of what that is and has been in order for source to channel another thing.
100%. 100%. And when you look at the symbols of the numbers too, that makes sense.
Mm,
The nine goes,
totally,
the nine goes back
totally.
up, but it comes down the three looks like those old school chords that, you know, like the phone
Yeah,
chords. So
I
it's like,
find the two things just big receivers too, the two U's, like, because
yeah, yeah,
sometimes I'll
yeah.
put the numbers upside down or just to let go of
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Like the eight's much nicer on the side,
yeah,
like the analemma, and the nine, I've started drawing it differently a bit,
yeah.
straight and feels nice. And one other thing I'd like to offer you, just when I was doing when I do the reading, do the charts, I've started writing the people's name with the capital just at their first letter and none others to keep it more in the private. You know how like the straw man and the private. And so I'm not going to play any of those games. So I just stopped doing the capitals. It's just as easy.
Yeah,
You do the capital J and then lowercase a s o n, and it just feels a bit more like in line with the kind of world I want to create. So
beautiful.
yeah, little things like that.
Love it. I love it. I love your little offerings. Um, yeah, so this nine energy thing that I learned recently.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Thanks for having a memory.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's my three energy that's like, let me speak, please.
Mm, yeah, good. Good.
um, so terrible at remembering names. There was a scientist that this scientist,
Mm.
uh, he not created, but he essentially was the birthplace of the term alpha in the way that we relate to alpha
Oh,
male,
yeah.
alpha dog,
I,
alpha wolf, right? So he coined that
yeah, like the glyph, like the top of the pyramid type aspect. Yeah.
exactly like leader of the pack. Da, 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 da. So this science, I wish I could remember his name, but names. He did this, like he did the research and he published the paper to, studied the wild wolves in the wolves in the wild and also the wolves that would pull sleds and all this kind of stuff and
Mm.
studied all versions. And he, of course, came to the conclusion that, of course, the leader of the pack is the alpha. So, this term, when he published that paper, it just spread like wildfire. And now everybody relates to the leader, the big wig, the main, as the alpha.
Hmm.
Not long after he published that original paper, he then went crazy in publishing a whole series of papers trying to discredit his original paper.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm. And so the reason why is because he kept, just like you, pulls things apart, put them together, pull it apart, put it right. Very seven energy, very scientist of you.
Mm.
Great combination of the scientist energy, but also the four that I just want to know how things work.
Yeah. Yeah. And fix them after I've broken them.
Exactly, exactly. So he did this. He continued to study, continued to learn from the wolves, and actually, what he learned very quickly. Well, I don't know if it was very quickly, but
Mm.
for the purpose of this story, it was very quickly.
Yeah.
He learned that actually the alpha isn't the leader of the pack.
Mm.
The alpha is actually the wolf at the back of the pack,
Whoa.
right? The leader, he dictates the direction and the pace.
Whoa.
But the alpha sits at the back of the pack. What does the alpha actually do? He's the one that has the entire view of not only the entire wolves, but he also can see where we're going, potential dangers coming up ahead. He's watching out for, is anyone lagging behind? Is anyone injured? Like is
Mm.
there anyone getting left behind? Like he's watching out for, he's the entire, right?
Oh. Mm.
Exactly. That is the alpha.
Mm.
Oh, and this
That's
just
amazing.
totally, isn't that incredible? And so I find it really beautiful because, of course, I relate it back to numbers. And the leader of the pack is this one energy. Of course, this is divine masculine, the leader. And when
Yeah.
he takes the first step, everybody else follows, including the nine.
Yeah.
But the nine energy, both of them, one and nine, are both
Yeah.
masculine
Yeah.
energy. And within those two,
Mm.
everything else kind of happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is that nine energy that you're talking about that
Mm.
returns back and comes back and returns back. And it's just the holder of space. He's like the frequency, he's the vibration and the energy of everything.
It's beautiful.
Isn't that just absolutely incredible?
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful offer for everyone around.
Mm.
That there's a lot of purpose in this frequency that we're under. There's a lot of, this year, there's a lot of purpose and a lot of benevolence.
Mm. 100%. And
I
I
think
think
that's enough.
further to your point that, the nines, it's not the nines that cause it, it's the nines that see it and show it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, this wolf at the back of the pack,
Mm,
he sees it, he
mm,
remedies it, and then
mm.
we keep going.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that's beautiful, Gigi. It's super good fun.
Oh my gosh. So, do you want to let people know where they can find you? Because that's important. They need to find you so
Yeah,
that you
thank
can
you.
then offer what you offer. And
Yes, thank you. Um, so can they see that, the pure potential bit?
yeah, yeah.
And then it's got a little dot and then it says life. So pure potential dot life. And then I imagine there's a website which is created by my beautiful wife.
You imagine there's a website.
No, there's a website. There's a website. Sorry, um, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm a bit self-conscious, I suppose. There's a website, and there's what I do imagine because I haven't ever tried writing to myself there. Um, there'd be a contact, but they can also just write to Jason at purepotential.life, and I'll receive the email and I can respond.
Right. Amazing.
People just want to write to me, they can. There's no limitation on that, please write. And then for anything, whatever you want. And then if they want to have a look at the stuff or it's all on the website, the things I've talked about, plus new offerings. The Power of Word is starting on the 29th of Jan on the Wednesday. I think the day after you start you doing a numerology on the 28th or
Yes,
something?
I am.
I can do both.
You can learn numbers and words, and then you'll be learning words with numbers, and then numbers with words.
All. So it's 2 hours from 7 till 9 for 4 weeks. It
And is
might
it? It's all
be
online. Is it online?
all online,
Yeah.
live, and it's like all like worksheets with Q&A, and yeah, it's so very thorough. So
Oh, you don't do anything not thorough.
yeah, it's very thorough. And I've done two of them already in person here in this space, and they're really beautiful.
Yeah.
I've got great reviews, which are probably I say probably, but I imagine they're on the website.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been very empowering. And I've also seen those people since um, the Power of Word, and I've seen their evolution. And I can't claim that I am or the Power of Word is responsible for their evolution, but they haven't devolved. So let's just say it hasn't not worked. So it's been beautiful. And yeah, that's probably the thing that I'm stepping into it most excitedly, including obviously doing a little bit of numerology. But
Yes. Oh my gosh, it just makes my heart so, I
yeah,
can't even tell you, just big and vibrant, makes my world vibrant
and I love that.
that you are out there and that you are offering these
Yeah.
readings for people. It makes my heart so big, I can't tell you. Oh my gosh. It's the best thing ever.
I love that. And then yeah, and then the one-on-one stuff as well. So yeah, that's and the men's retreat. There is a men's retreat. Okay, so it's very fiercely scheduled because Damien's English and he's a bit of a power freak. He's a one. I did his reading. He's like he's like the 1st of January or something. It's messed up. But
You
um
just follow his lead.
yeah, he tells me when it isn't. But it's Renee's birthday. So if it's not the 15th, it'll be on the website. It'll be like within a week or so, and then the one after will be 3 months after that. So they're all reasonably priced and they're for access. So yeah, people can feel if they want to allow that for themselves. And I think that's about it. I don't know. Is there anything more that people would normally say in this situation?
Well, there's no normal about anything that we do, G. Just say that.
Yeah,
That means we get to do whatever the heck we want to do.
nice. Thank you.
That's
Yeah, so that
amazing.
feels right. Yeah, that feels good.
Good, amazing. So that all of that information will be on the website, or they can just email you directly
Yeah,
and ask.
yeah. So what I'd love to do, and maybe, just declaring this will be enough for me to create it, is just a bit of a community sort of interest where if I haven't got it set up, I'd aim to set it up. But if until that time, which I would like to do in the next sort of 3 weeks, is just ping me an email, and what I'll do is just anything that we're doing, I'll just let you know
Yeah,
because I really feel like that's what I want to do is just have a community of people that there's just aware of what's going on and the stuff that resonates. They can tune in or tell people that it might serve, and we'll just go from there. So if that hasn't been created yet on our website, we will. But in the meantime, just write to me and say, hey, I'm interested in some of your stuff. If anything in particular rattled your chain, then name it. And I'll write to you specifically. If you want to leave a phone number, cool. If you don't, no worries. Leave your mine and we'll go from there. So, yeah,
amazing.
thank you so much.
So incredible. And we'll, of course, add all the links and your email address in the description below. That's a thing
Thank
people
you.
say.
That's so nice. That's so nice. And your partner can use his name is Corey, is that right?
Yes, it is.
And I mean the quality of the intro of the name and the quality is just ridiculous. it's like the most exciting thing ever. The podcast intro and the name and the realize I just like it's ultra ultra.
He is incredible.
Hmm.
He is beyond like he's creative genius. I
He
get
is.
so many compliments on the intro, and I'm always like, that's my husband. That's not me. I was terrible. I'm a terrible client for my husband because I'm like, I kind of want it to be a bit like, and if it feels a bit like impact. I want impact and be great if it had some lines from, movies or something. Like this is the vagueness that I gave him, and he took the vagueness and then turned it into that. And
Nailed it.
he's just absolutely incredible. And the original Australian soundtrack behind it is because I recently discovered,
Yes.
actually have that in my line. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Beautiful
it's
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's just absolutely incredible. So any chance I can to plug him because he's wanting to leave the constraints of full-time employeeship
Yeah. Yeah.
and free himself and be, do his own thing.
Creator of his own
Exactly.
destiny. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. He has written some incredible feature film length
Oh wow.
scripts.
Wow.
I've read one of them
Mm.
once and it still lives in my brain.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
a movie I've watched a million times. Anyway,
Okay.
I could literally talk about him for days.
I know at least one producer, so no big deal. But no, I'm not. But I can. Well, after when it suits, just text me or whatever, and I'll just create the link. So they've made films and stuff. So yeah,
Amazing.
I don't know, but they also know people, and that industry is mainly like that, you know. Um,
Totally.
so yeah, I'm happy to pass that on.
Ah, I love it so much. This is incredible. Thank you so much for this, Jason.